So, in late 2006, CGW became GFW Radio, and from there it just went even further downhill. The stories got more crazy, the characters got more diverse, and, fundamentally speaking, the podcast became less and less about games, and more just about the life and times of this group.
That was the awesome thing about CGW, is that we were always the redheaded stepchild of Ziff Davis. We were not outcasts, but it was so much more about console gaming at that time. In computer gaming world, we were just, they let us live for like the old school people, but like PC gaming, it's had an incredible renaissance now. But at the time, it was big, but all the buzz was around the consoles. And so those magazines had just a lot more cachet within Ziff Davis itself. Like within the organization, I was editor-in-chief, but I felt like I was editor-in-chief of, Gilligan's Island, or editor-in-chief of whatever, just a group of misfits. And so the advantage of that was that we knew they weren't listening because they didn't give a shit what we were doing. There were no executive eyes on us or ears on us to hear. They just wanted to make sure we were doing it, but they weren't listening. So once we saw that we were getting away with it a little, because I definitely, when it first started going off the rails, we would be looking at each other, like, oh God, what are we doing? But then we just kept going and we would put it up there. And I remember there would be times where we'd be like, in the time before it went live and in the couple days after it went live, we would be like waiting, is a hammer going to fall? And once we realized it was never going to fall because no one at Ziff Davis was listening, then we just went for it.
Let's take a moment to talk about the actual cast of people that we have on GFW Radio. Of course, we have Jeff Green, who we've been hearing from a lot on this show. He was more or less the ringleader of everyone. Sometimes he played the straight man, sometimes he played the funny guy. But, he was kind of just this all-around presence in the show. Now, off to his right hand, we always had Sean Elliott. If you've ever heard anything about GFW Radio, or anyone who's ever listened to GFW Radio knows Sean Elliott and his stories. Message board posts, he would take direct messages he received on Steam and Twitter and otherwise, and he would just invent these characters that were just the funniest thing.
Yeah, certainly, like Sean Elliott's antics were always a highlight for me and everybody. It's so funny because if you know him in real life, he's actually a kind of quiet and reserved guy, just in person. He's not that he's not warm, but he's imposing. He's a very tall man, but he's also he's an academic. He has post-undergrad work under his belt, and he thinks and he talks that way in real life. So he has this super serious academic side to him, and a lot of that is the personality that comes across when you know him in person. So to be in a room with him and to see him go off on the most like insane, immature stuff was like really a revelation. And stuff like some of the characters he had, like Whiskey Nerd, those were my fondest memories, is when he would come in and do and just start doing these goofy characters.
Guys, I'm scared. I'm shaking. I'm cold. It hurts all over my body. The reason why I got a 360 has come to this day. The reason why I started playing the early FPS like Quake and Doom and Wolf and Dark Forces and GoldenEye, it was all because of this day, because of this game. This game will not only be the last significant game of all time, but also the game that will counterattack and kill World of Warcraft and all other, oh my god, online phenomenon. Red versus blue on this. It's going to be, I can't write anymore. I have to hide under my desk. I just can't. I just can't. But so many don't understand. They don't understand it's also about the chanting monks. It's about being a super soldier on a dying star and falling from grace with the Carmina Burana soundtrack. That's what it's about. The pink enemy palette, the bright colors and the strange art designs, the mix of tactical only 2-weapon and frantic Doom run and gun library level. It all collided together. God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. Guys, I can't. What if it gets less than a 9.4 on GameSpot? I wouldn't be able to deal with it. I would. Guys, please don't let them give it less than Halo 2. Please don't. Gersman, I love you. Don't do this. I know you thought it was fun making Zelda fanboys mad, but you're better than this. There's more to this world than Tony Hawk and GTA series. Jeff, please, I beg of you. Oh my God. And that's because God is G-O about 6 or 7 times, about 18 Ds. Guys, I can't. I'm going to urinate on the floor. God, help me. Oh, God, this is insane. I need some water. This is the biggest moment of my life. I can't breathe. Oh, please, God, be good. Oh, God, be good. Then, this is a weird aside as we're getting down to the moment of truth. He says, man, I can't get enough of the Halo Nights music. And he leaves a link, and then it says below it, NSYNC was such an amazing band. I'm not gay, though. Okay, dude. He goes, yes, GS 9.5. Yes, yes, yes. That's what's important. Yes, thank you, God. Thank you so, God, for making this the best day of my life.
Jeff Green and Sean Elliott both carried over from Computer Gaming World, and another cast member who carried over was Ryan Scott. Now, since GFW Radio, Ryan Scott has blazed quite the trail in the world of podcasting, so to speak. But 8 or 9 years ago on GFW Radio, rest assured that he was the exact same Ryan Scott we all know and love today.
They asked all the magazines, all the podcasts at Davis, they wanted us all to record audio commercials that would appear on the other podcasts. So they wanted us each to record like 30 seconds or a minute about our podcast, and then they would put it on the others if Davis shows. And the reason we ended up sort of getting in trouble was because it wasn't just a gaming magazine. So there were like these serious, businessy tech magazines that these commercials were going on. But the commercial that we recorded, because we didn't care, was Ryan Scott and I got into a room, and what I said was kind of a variation on the old National Lampoon cover. They had a cover once that was it was just a photo of a dog with a gun pointed to its head, and the caption said, "Buy this magazine or we'll kill this dog." And that's essentially what we did. I was like, listen to our podcast, or Ryan's mother's never going to see Ryan again. So we did that, and then that commercial appeared on some serious tech journalism podcasts, and those people got upset. And we're saying, like, what, this is outrageous, this is immature, like, you can't do this. But that was the end of it. They just pulled that commercial, and we were left alone for the rest of our history. So it was a great feeling.
Ryan, are you done with your ice cream?
Yeah. I was hanging out one night there with Bruce Jarek and with Eric Nayer, one of our other writers. He's a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And somehow they got on the topic of, like, Russian literature. So I'm sitting there, and like the doctor and the lawyer are talking about Russian literature.
And I bet you felt pretty stupid there with your pile of DC comics.
Pretty much.
Anthony Gallegos was the last member to join GFW Radio. Aside from being by far the youngest, he was also a lot more in touch with his feelings, shall we say, and his quest for love often became a topic of discussion on the show.
That's why we ended up loving going down there, because we could just talk about Anthony Gallegos' love life for 45 minutes.
So what happened? Yeah.
Yeah, I went back on that Saturday and walked in there and I didn't see her, and I was like hoping to God that she wasn't working so that I wouldn't have to actually do it. Oh man, because I was so scared. It's intimidating.
No, it is.
Yeah, because how do you do it in the game store?
Not only because it's like the place of employment, but she's kind of intimidating looking a little bit.
Yeah.
So
in a good way.
In a good way,
Not
yes.
a bad way.
Yeah, well,
not
any
a
girl
B. Arthur.
Well, when they're attractive, it's like it makes it more intimidating.
And she is, which I wanted to say. Like when I showed up today, I heard you guys talking about, and all you guys said was like girl at a game store, and I knew immediately what girl you were talking about because this is the town that I live in, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to say the place, but I knew immediately what girl you were talking about because she's like notoriously. This is not the kind of girl you see in a typical game store. You're like,
I gotta
when
go
you
buy
walk
that
in there
tonight.
with your stupid nerdy video games, you're like, maybe I should go to another place.
So I rolled in there, and she was working with like 2 coworkers, and it was super busy.
As predicted.
As predicted, yeah. And so I started like perusing the store, but only half perusing, like hoping that she'd come over and ask me if I wanted some help with something, and then I'd like have that break away from like the 2 people behind the fucking void of the counter.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. So 20 minutes later,
That's a lot of browsing.
20 minutes later?
20 minutes.
I don't want to talk
the
about
How much did you learn about
The
like
GameCube
carnival
has
games?
a lot of fine games that he had to read the back of the box of.
So then, like,
His flop sweat.
you know, as she was taking out all the garbages, and I was like, all right, shit. As she leaves the store, that's gonna be like my only chance.
Dude, this is what begat Matt and James's alternate reality version, where you ambushed her and you sprung out of a trash can with a handful of roses. Fucking not Cookie Monster, what Oscar the Grouch said.
I like Cookie Monster better.
Hey!
No, that wasn't the case at all. I waited out
Did
front.
not happen.
I waited out front of the store for her to take the garbage and come back. And then while she was coming back, I walked up and
Was she taking out the garbage because the store was closing?
no,
Oh,
It was just garbage time.
picturing it's like 10 at night.
no,
Yeah,
this
okay.
was like
You
the
could
first
have
thing I
used
did
like
in the day.
Telly's famous line from the movie Kids, like, I barely know you, but I feel like I love you. I want to buy you corn dogs or nacho or something.
It works.
Every time.
Robert Ashley was someone who would kind of float around to different podcasts. He would be on GFW Radio and he'd be on other podcasts now and then. But on GFW Radio is when we probably learned more about him than he would have liked.
Do you want to talk about your history as an amateur wrestler?
Oh, no.
And your move?
What?
No.
Dude, the sleigh ride, man. He would dress up as Santa Claus and he had a move called the sleigh ride, but SLAY.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I had friends who were really into pro wrestling, including Michael Donahoe. If any of you guys know
Right,
Michael
from,
Donahoe,
EGM.
We're from the same town, and him and all of our friends were really into wrestling, and they had a backyard wrestling thing. And we would like show up to the park, and we would have like a couple of our bands play, and people would wrestle and hurt each other until the cops showed up and told us to go home after being like baffled that we weren't drinking. But yeah, I would dress up as Santa, and my character was Satanic Santa.
Now, Sean Malloy and Darren Gladstone were more or less the Wranglers of the show. They were more serious and they tried to bring a little more structure to the program. But even they got in on the crazy antics now and then.
All right, I'll do the first part. The mod Halogen and RTS take on Halo is ground to a halt by Microsoft. I'm reading this exactly, so don't. This has ground to a halt by Microsoft. What the hell is that, dude? Anyway, just notes. I know, just playing.
Don't edit his notes.
I'm about to after working on the game for the last 3 years.
on your ass.
All right, let's back it up.
Fucking Webster over here.
Oh,
Whoa. Someone's legitimately
easy on the
mad.
language. Yeah.
Oh man, I was just playing.
Dude, my notes, dude.
Oh,
That ain't
dude,
cool.
we got to end this podcast.
Yeah, I know it's
getting ugly.
anarchy. Okay,
So I'll
John,
let- I'll
we
let
all
Derek
needed
get back
fire
and read it.
resist
I was
gear.
just trying to make it exciting.
It was-
I know it was going to be
that
exciting.
was exciting. We
But
almost
I
had
mean-
blows here.
I know.
Go ahead, Sean.
No, I'm done.
Wow,
Got all
scared him off.
awkward. Darren's just dropping F-bombs. He's losing it.
Thank you so much for watching the History of Gaming podcast GFW Radio Part 2. If you haven't seen Part 1 yet, then why did you even watch this video? Anyway, click here to see Part 1. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow me on Twitter as Part 3 is coming real soon. Anyway, thanks again.